I am really excited to hear that everyone goes through the rite of passage, which is Neil, kind of ambushing you. My first experience was, I swear to God, he jumped out of the bush and was like, "You should go to Nicaragua." I was like, "Okay, will do." So I'm really excited that everyone gets to experience that. But I wanted to bring that up because you don't always have to work through the Isaac Harvey Fund with programs that Neil or Michael or somebody here suggests. As long as you are interested in exploring Quaker values, you can approach the Isaac Harvey Fund with a program that you would like to attend. And that is what I did. I worked at Pisco Sin Fronteras, which roughly means Pisco without borders. And I'm going to do this a little differently and just have some photos up there, but not necessarily speak to what is in the photos. I'd like to speak a little bit more past the who, what, and where, and when, and all that, the details. Like the who is me, I'm Karay. I'm a history and Spanish major here at Wilmington College. And the what, where, and when is Pisco, Peru. In the summer of 2011, I traveled there. It was quite a magical, bohemian experience. And I volunteered along with Pat, actually. Pat was my travel buddy for this. It was good times. And we volunteered with PSF, or actually, I forgot these photos. Okay, we did a little tourism, definitely went to Machu Picchu. I wasn't going to go, but then Pat made me, which I'm very thankful for, thank you. So we traveled around Peru, which was really amazing. But we volunteered with Pisco Sin Fronteras, which is an organization that was founded in 2007 after an 8.0 magnitude earthquake pretty much devastated the city of Pisco. And it was, it's an organization that works along the spectrum from things of building projects, earthquake resistance buildings or eco-friendly buildings, homes, schools, community centers, all the way down to city planning and development, outreach, things of that nature. So it's a pretty wide, pretty exhaustive organization, or extensive organization. And it was, the time we were there was about 100 plus volunteers all living on top of each other in a very small little compound. And I guess the reason that I don't necessarily want to speak to the photos exactly is because, as you've heard, like it doesn't really matter who the who, what, where, and when is. I mean, we've heard South Dakota, Switzerland, Ethiopia, amazing people, different times. And the thing that kind of actually connects us that I want to speak to is the experience. For me, my experience was actually a life-changing experience, and some of you have heard this before, so my apologies. But it really was a life-changing experience. I'm not saying that lightly or like hyperbolically. Like, I mean, my life will be separated into two sections, before Pisco and after Pisco, without doubt. Like, you know, BP and AP, like, on the mark. So what changed, why it was so important to me, or well, actually, that is one of the most important things, is that it was a life-changing experience, which I'm sure lots of people also had. And the other thing is that it is Isaac Harvey. That's the other very important thing that we all share, is that the Isaac Harvey Fund is what allowed me to be in the right place at the right time, exactly where I needed to be to have this life-changing experience. So without Isaac Harvey, I would still be on the same path that I had been on in 2011 or before that, and that would have been a really sad place. I wouldn't be here, all happy and lovely. So, so that's a really good thing. And the thing about life-changing experiences is that you don't always sign up for it. You know, like it just kind of happens. And in this case, two things were running parallel at the time that I wasn't quite aware of. And it's a little bit of a backstory or personal story, but there were things that were going on, like before I came to Wilmington College, I did things. Like I was in the real world for a while. It was about 10 years before I decided to attend college. And in that time, I was a teacher. And I taught at one of the best schools in Cincinnati. I loved my job. I loved my students. I loved what I did every day. I was pretty confident, pretty capable, pretty content. And then I went to college, and all that got stripped, oddly enough. Like, all that I thought I was capable of, all of a sudden I questioned, and all that I was confident in, all of a sudden I questioned, and content, sure, on good days, but on other days I really was just, it was a crucible for me. I was just like, oh my God. And it has to do with something very specific that you only find in academia, which is great. And it's something that, was kind of a surprise to me because I love learning and I love teaching. So it was something that caused me to be very questioning of who I was. And it's very schizophrenic, kind of, to have to live a life where it's like who you know yourself to be on the inside doesn't necessarily line up on the outside, and that's kind of stressful. And to say the least, and that's where I ended up right before I got to Pisco. So that was there, and then running parallel to that, it turned out that I had an undiagnosed condition my whole life that had been compounding itself, and it decided to break while in Pisco. So lucky Pat, he got to travel with like this old fart who's having a midlife crisis and like, falling apart, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun for him. Sorry about that. but I was unaware of it at the time. I wasn't quite realizing, like I just thought like, in those 10 years I had traveled a lot and I knew that I enjoyed it and I was good at it and I loved doing it and connecting with people and stuff. And so the thing that happened was that like, I just wasn't connecting while I was traveling, and I just didn't know why, and I was just like, okay. But eventually it got to the point where I eventually had to shake it off, and I had no control of that. I was compelled to do this. And I want to skip real quick and just say that like when I came back from Pisco, I had to take a medical leave of absence. And in that time, it was a really dark time, and like doctor after doctor couldn't figure this out, and it was really annoying, and I won't go into detail, but it stunk. And it was really dark. And the only thing that kept me going, like my light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, was the life-changing experience that I had been through. And I'm a Quaker, so when I say light, I mean like inner light, light. And so what kept me going was that knowledge that if I hadn't had that experience, like I knew where, because of that experience, I now know where I'm going. And before that experience, I questioned where I was going. And so in this dark period, I kept on thinking to myself, like, I wouldn't have gotten the chance to have that experience if I weren't going to make it out of this dark time in my life. So it gave me hope, really. And I mean, thus Isaac Harvey gave me hope, and it's really kind of amazing when I think about it. So when I was in Pisco, it was long hours, and it was hard work, and it was definitely one of those like work harder, play harder kind of environments. Like I said, it's kind of this magical bohemian world of just like hundreds of volunteers from all over the world. Just it was amazing, and that you worked really hard building, and just it was all over, and finally one day or night, it was like it's 3 a.m. in the morning, and I just can't go to sleep. Like I'm just not comfortable in my skin. Like those nights where you're just like tossing and turning, and you're like, ah. And I was tired of smelling funky like laundry and like stale crackers and peanut butter and sweaty volunteers who were all sleeping next to me, and I was just like, ah. And so I left, and I left the compound, and it was not a smart idea. And so I'm just saying, for those of you who travel via Isaac Harvey, do not do this at home. It's very silly thing to do, but I'm thankful that I did it, because I left, and the beach was only about 5 minutes away, 5 minutes down the boulevard, and there's lots of interesting characters out at that time here, let alone in another country that you're not necessarily familiar with. And I walked onto the beach, and for all of you who are thinking of this beautiful like white sand, aquamarine beach, no. It was like rocks and like broken bottles and a dead seal we named Frankie and like dirty waters. It's like, but it was great. We enjoyed it when we did. And I went down and I went to the beach and I sat there for quite a long time, like several hours, just watching this like kind of storm come across the ocean. It's really beautiful to watch. And but finally I just broke. And I mean, I was like on a beach in the middle of Peru, around the corner of Peru, just like crying, and I found myself in the ocean, like pretty much just like cussing out God, like shaking my fist, like why what is the point of this? Like, why am I here? So like I said, it was midlife crisis to the nth degree. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. And the thing was that, like, I didn't realize what I was doing, but, you know, and when I say God, like, I'm not necessarily, I'm a Quaker, but I don't necessarily, I'm not a Judeo-Christian Quaker, but I believe that, like, God is in, like, the universe, is in, like, things are happening and doing great stuff, and, like, I totally support that. And so that's what I was questioning, why I believe in, like, great stuff happening, and yet I didn't feel that I was doing great stuff or contributing, and that's not fulfilling. And so as I'm sitting there, and I was like, why? What is the point? Like, why am I here? All of a sudden, like, everything just, like, lit up. And I was like, oh, crap, I went crazy. Like, that was my first thought. I was like, I finally snapped. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's just, like, lightning. And I realized it's too far away. And I turned around to look at the beach, and there he was, just standing there. And I was like, okay. And it was this adorable, cute little Peruvian sand dog of a grandpa taking a picture of me. And he was, like, sitting there. You know, he was probably just thinking, like, crazy gringo, what the hell? It's like 3 a.m. What are you doing in the ocean? So he was probably just like, oh, my buddies aren't going to believe me. Okay. I took that to the bar and passed that around because you can't blame them. And so, you know, I understood that. But at the same time, I was so thunderstruck because there was my answer. Like, I asked and I got an answer. And it was one of those things where, you know, the only thing that had been keeping me connected during this trip, like, I was feeling disconnected, the only thing that kept me connected was taking photographs. That was what connected me to people. That is what started conversations. That is how I said, like, that's, you know, when somebody comes up to ask to take your picture, what they're really saying is, you look nice, I want to be your friend. Like, that's pretty much what a photograph is about, even if it's a stranger, right? So it was a chance for me to experience Peru, even though it had to be through the lens of a camera. And so there was my answer. Like, I was like, oh, okay, like, that's what I'm supposed to do. Okay, take photos, I can do that. And then I started thinking about more, and it's about telling stories. Like, I've always been good at that, and I enjoy doing that. And that's actually part of my problem here is writing. So it was one of those realizations that that there was one small apple that was spoiling the barrel, so to speak, and I was letting that go, when all I really had to do was, like, take that apple out, put it over there, and the rest of the barrel was totally good to go. And that barrel is photography and art and writing and history and all these things that people here at Wilmington College have supported me in. So that is the experience. Like, I know each of us have different experiences. Like, each of us, this is the beach, by the way, or, like, going to the beach. It's pretty badass. I was pretty excited about it. But each of us have different experiences, and they're experiences that can be fine, or they're experiences that can be quite mundane, but they're experiences that change your life. And this, without doubt, changed my life. And so that's kind of one of those things where, for those of you who are students, if you have thought of, like, ever wanting to travel, like, maybe, like, you picture yourself in India or Burma or the Yukon Territory, whatever, like, you can go to the Isaac Harvey Fund and say, I would like to travel here to do good work. And they might say yes, they might say no, but they're willing to listen to you and entertain that idea. And then for those of you who contribute to the Isaac Harvey Fund, please, please, please keep on doing that. Please, your donations and your support and your contributions really honestly change lives. Like, without question, they change lives, and I can testify to that. So that's kind of what I wanted to speak to. It's like changing stuff, you know, nothing big. But yeah, I just wanted to thank the Isaac Harvey Fund for that, and thank really cool stories to hear, and tell you to go out there and travel and change the world.